All right, we will open the February 11th Select Board meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okey-dokey. Manifests.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of February 11th, 2019, and the payroll manifest of February 12th, 2019.
I'll second for discussion.
For discussion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I had a bunch of questions on the highway department supplies. So if we can get more clarification on what those were. It seems like, I don't have specific lines, but it just seems like there's a lot of them. And I think there was also some questions that
Ben
had sent in as well, looking for some clarification.
So is it all highway supplies lines, or were there specific ones?
No, it's just overall. To be honest with you, I just had a chance to look at this because I was on the road all day today, and we didn't get it till this morning, so I didn't have an opportunity to look at it.
All right, so what would you like? How would you like to proceed?
I guess we can go by each one if you have the info.
I won't have anything unless I can pull something off the top of my head, but I probably won't be that helpful without looking at each backing thing, so.
So I think then, I think I'm fine with approving it pending the information so that we have an idea of what these were and answers to the questions that Ben has asked.
Okay, so I think it would be helpful, though, if you go through this and you
Send the questions
Send the questions.
to Chris.
Yeah.
Ben and Betsy communicated about his questions. Those were covered, but I don't think it all went back to all of you all, so.
All right, so you're fine with if we approve, move forward, but
then I'll
you'll
send
get your questions
and get
to
those
Chris, and him
answered.
and Betsy can come back with responses.
Yep.
Okay, given that, all in favor?
Yep.
Did you do them both, payroll too?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, what's the cover sheet? Here you go.
Let's straighten out the part that you had highlighted in the other minutes.
What was that?
The minutes you had
I had some
put
edits.
in there, yeah. If it was edited out in this one or not.
Let me check.
Oh, yeah.
Okey-dokey. Minutes. we want to, I have edits. Do we want to discuss first and then take the motion?
Yeah, I had sent in some edits too. You want a motion? We usually make a motion and then second for discussion. I'll make a motion that we approve the January 28th, 2019 minutes as amended.
Second for discussion.
Okay, open discussion. Who wants to go first?
I was just opening the door there.
All right, Charlene, are you looking at the file and seeing if all yours are in there?
Well, what Dawn had sent, it looks like they all are.
Yes, there's edits in here and they look,
Yeah.
Okay, I've got some then.
Are they easy, Dawn, or are they more complex?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can send you this afterwards. I want to go down around line, well, it's 129, the way I'm looking at it. It's talking about Marston, and it's saying the total amount needed for project completion is approximately 5 million, and the starting phase is to just break ground. The starting phase to just break ground is approximately 260,000. This will get the town a practice field. It will flatten the land, put in the drainage and first parking lot. It doesn't get a usable game playing field, and in fact, it does.
Nope, actually, that's what Matt said.
It does get them, based on conversation I had with Matt and information I'll share when we get to that, when we talk about that warrant article, it does get a playable field.
Well, that's what he said on Monday. I listened to the tape.
I wish I had the time you have.
I take the time.
All right, then we'll leave it that way. Down on line 162, Mr. Dumas stated that there are problems at the town office, asked what the largest priority was and what the first step is. I think that needs to be clarified, because I don't know what problems at the town office Tony might have been referring to.
yeah, it's line 156 on mine.
Okay.
Is it the town office fields?
I did ask him, of all the issues with the recreational fields, which would you consider the highest priority, which would you want to address first? Something to that effect, but,
I just, the way that it written, it implies that there's a problem with the building. All right, that's my concern.
yeah, it seems out of place there.
Field, wouldn't it be?
So if I put town office ball fields, will that be all right? Or the community center ball fields?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't remember what the context of the discussion was at the moment this line came up, so I don't remember verbatim what I was saying.
Do you want to go back and clarify?
Yeah.
Yes?
You can either go back and clarify, or you can just strike it if it doesn't.
Yeah,
No.
I can
He
strike
was
it.
talking about the backstop and those things.
Well, Tony, it's attributed to you, so, it's your call. Do you want to go back and clarify it, or do you want to just strike it?
Yeah, the only priority-related question I asked him was, of all the places that they are responsible for, which one would he consider the highest priority? But it wasn't specific to the town, not the building or any one field in particular, so maybe just pull that part of it out.
So how would you like it to read?
Say, Mr. Dumas stated that of all the problems that they faced, ask what the largest priority was and what the first, what the next steps would be.
Got it, or I'll get it.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, and then Charlene does have a comment on there, the lead, line 144, paragraph beginning, general discussion took place about the need for additional fields. As the total cost was $290,000 to $300,000. And Charlene, that is where Matt kind of clarified that it will, this first phase that they're planning with the additional 100,000 will include some type of ball fields. And whether it's just the softball field,
I think you said,
Actually, so I put that comment and then I went on and listened to the video. So I should have struck that question. Because he said it didn't. And that's why further down, it was the clarification, or further up.
So what do you want to do?
do you want to, which will include grass and backstop? That's the way I remember the conversation from watching it.
Let's strike it. That'd be my recommendation.
That last sentence?
Yep.
Down around line 190 on my document, it said, Mr. Chakoukas stated that there is the expectation that the town could make money, but that isn't a priority at this point. So, I mean, I read some of these things from the perspective of what somebody reading the minutes might not be getting, and I think, so I don't think that this statement on its own makes sense, but I think there was discussion, and Tyler, I think the conversation was around the fact that at some point, we could, when we're at that point, we could actually charge fees for using the fields.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think we need to make it clear that that's what we were talking about and that it's longer term.
What line number did you say that was?
No, I'm at
Anyways?
190.
It's at 190 on mine.
It's 178 for me.
Yeah.
We're not all using the same document here, so I'd be a little worried about approving this when we're not even all looking at the same thing.
Well, you're reading the same line.
Right, but what's the additional material in your document that puts it at line 190 that's missing from mine?
I don't think it is, Tony. I think it's just a spacing issue. So if
That's not spacing. I mean, we're talking straight up line numbers here.
All right, so, I mean, I'm comfortable to make these changes and then send them out again, and then if you guys want to approve them at your next meeting.
Sounds like a plan. Do you want me to strike my motion?
Sure.
Or do we just not accept them as amended for now? Do that as well, right? Or I can
Well-
modify my motion?
Well, we're not done yet.
Okay, sorry.
Where was I? Okay, so we just did that. So around, on mine, 207, 207, Charlene edited, Chair Danis recommended Mr. Chakoukas move forward with a citizen petition. He stated he already has a citizen's petition warrant article written and is willing to move forward with getting signatures for that. You had a line in here that said, Chair Danis stated all board members agree that the funds should not be added to the operating budget. And Charlene, you deleted that, and it's unclear to me why that was deleted.
I deleted it because I didn't think it mattered.
I do, because there was reference made at the beginning where we said that there were a couple of options. One was including it in the operating budget. And so I think it's important to have that follow on that says that, you know, we do agree that that's a reasonable option.
That's fair.
Let's put it back.
Right.
Okay, so that's all I had. All right, so, Tony, you want to see all the revisions made, right? So that you
Yeah.
can see the right lines.
So I'm looking at the previous one that was emailed out a few days ago, and that, the line numbers and the text don't match what you or I have. So there's a third, I don't know if I have the third version that you haven't seen, or if you have the third version that I haven't seen.
Is it dependent on, like, font size when you print it?
It totally could be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because they're
margins
automatic, right?
Margins do change depending on your Word defaults. Mine happen to all be set at a 1 inch, but if yours are 1.5, which is typically what happens, that's why your spacing increases.
Right, but the lines themselves are the same size as the font you're using. There's no drift between the paragraphs and the line numbers.
No, what I'm saying, if Donna opens it on her laptop and her default margin setting is 1.25 inches,
That's only for writing and editing, not for, so if you write and edit a document with 1 inch margins,
yep,
everybody that opens it is gonna see it with a 1 inch margin. Unless they start changing stuff, in which case they would have to save it with their own default template.
and I think that's what happens.
Okay, so let's withdraw
So,
and let's defer till the next meeting on these so that everybody can get a clean copy.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right. Committee assignments.
Planning meets tomorrow night.
Okay.
Haven't met since last time.
Budget went through the articles and approved them as voted for them.
Okay.
Nothing on the,
Master Plan Subcommittee meets February 19th with a snow date of, I think, February 26th. Whatever the following Tuesday. And we'll be meeting with Courtney.
Town administrator report.
Couple quick things. One, rate change that I will send by you. Second, the NYA would like to run a 5K race again, May 5th, using Flutter Street and the beach access road. I want to make sure you were comfortable with that same route they used a year ago. Started the highway garage.
Yeah.
Recreation and PD are both fine with it and on board and ready to
So
go.
wait, in May,
Yep. It's a Sunday morning.
any special tie to it or just,
Special tie.
I mean, like they've done them in the past around Nottingham. This is just a,
Yeah, I forget what the gimmick is. Yeah, it's the same thing they've done before. Just want to make sure you had no concerns about that.
I want to hold off on that one.
And the only other thing I have is we've posted the Public Works Director position, but we haven't talked about how you want to handle that process beyond that. We've got responses coming in. How do you want to be involved?
Last time, Charlie and I did most of the interviews. I mean, Charlie made logical sense because he was a town administrator for quite a while. I got no objection to doing it again. I'd like to ask that Ben be involved because he's the subject matter expert, time willing, of course. If you're up for it.
Yep, I'm up for it.
What I'd like to get, I don't know if you still have them, is the copies of the interview questions from last
Can
time.
find them, yeah.
Because that way we can compare apples to apples with the responses.
I'd like to meet the, Chris, like the final two candidates, or if there's one that we feel really strongly about, I'd like to meet him at that, so,
In this context or in a interview?
interview process is okay.
Alone or with the group, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
How would you like to meet that person?
Interview, one-on-one interview.
One-on-one, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the finalists or the two finalists?
Yeah, I mean, it's, it depends on how many people we have, right?
Okay.
If we end up with two great candidates that we're trying to decide between, then it would be two. If it's one who is outstanding that we don't want to lose, then it's one.
That's all I got.
Okay. Let's go, I sent the annual report letter to you guys. Did anybody have any comments on that? And Chris, I saw you just sent,
Yeah, I'm here, but my edit suggestions are printed there too for you.
In red?
Yep.
where? Oh, there we go. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. Hang on a second, I'm just writing it. Can we just take a minute to read what Chris had as well?
Is that it? Okay, Charlene has asked that, under the Route 4 property, where it read, the town executed tax deed on the Route 4 property previously held by USA Springs. She just wants that genericized to a water, mining, and bottling firm.
Let's not give him any more recognition.
Also strike USA Spring.
That'll help keep it out of the Google search results.
All right, anybody have anything else?
The only thing I would want to change is about the road service management study down where it says asphalt road conditions. Just strike the word asphalt, because, no?
That study only applies to
That
asphalt.
only, so how do we express what we did as far as like the traffic study on Poor Farm, Ledge Farm? Because I thought they were all part and parcel of the same effort.
No, those are separate. The traffic counts, well, those were
Done.
2017.
They were done.
So that may knock it out of mention anyway.
Yeah.
But those were separate. They're really separate activities, traffic counts
Right.
and the road surface study are, you use one as you do the other, but they're
Yeah.
completely separate.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, yeah, I got nothing.
I mean, you could just add at the end of that paragraph that this, you know, this continues our work on, you know, data collection of roads, something like that. To kind of tap into what Tony was saying.
So something like combined with the findings of the previous traffic studies.
Yeah, I think it shows that we're continuing
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that
Work
think
on
we're just doing nothing. Which is not the case.
nice job on it, Donna. That's why we put you in charge of it.
Not gonna happen. I don't know if I want to say this way. Hold on a second.
Oh, we increased from 3 to 5 members in 2017.
Combined with the findings of the previous traffic studies, the board, what?
I have to get, you know. You put it at the end or the?
Yeah, just at the end.
So, read it again?
Well, all I'm doing is adding a sentence that's started, the first part of the sentence is combined with the findings of the previous traffic studies, the board.
Continues to collect data. Like,
Collect data to help shape our future road development efforts.
it works for me.
How about this? How about this? Combined with the findings of the previous traffic studies, the board continues to adopt a data collection process for shaping future highway initiatives. Or board continues to move towards the adoption of, advances the,
I like advances.
Yeah.
combined with the findings of the previous traffic study, the board continues to advance its ability to make future decisions based on data.
I say it's a go.
All right.
Done is good.
Dawn, do you want this with the edits all incorporated, or do you want them highlighted because you've already applied this?
Just accept what the
Accept
changes are,
everything?
and then you can
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the 3 to 5 members in 2017.
Oh, yeah, where is that?
Top of the second page, if you have your page breaks.
What's the category?
Boards and committees. So we feel this is reasonable, given the board's increase from 3 to 5 members in
17,
2017. Yeah.
okay. Okey dokey. Next. Appointment of the chief.
The membership of the fire department held their elections a couple weeks ago, as they do every year. Jay Vilchuk was elected chief again. The next step in that process is for you to formally appoint him, as you do each year. Take a vote, sign the form. I don't believe anybody ran against him again.
Chris, you remember when that meeting was,
I can probably figure it out here,
What?
the date of the meeting.
It's kind of bizarre that
January 8th, 2019?
they elect them.
No, that's an association
Oh.
thing, that may be different.
Funky system.
That was the 8th, January 8th.
thank you.
Did both the same night.
Do you need a motion on that, Chris?
All right. Make a motion that the select board appoint Jay Vilchuk as fire chief of the town of Nottingham through January 2020.
Second.
All in favor? I just sent that to you, Dawn.
Ooh.
With 3 days to spare, right, Dawn?
He's got a crazy leg.
Sure. I even told Steve no today when he came in to
He
ask for
came close to
something.
yelling at me.
Oh, my goodness.
What are you submitting new pictures or something for the cover?
No, we're going with
The sign?
the sign. Sorry, Tony.
All right.
Next
CIP.
year.
That's what you said last year.
Next year.
I took some nice pictures of the stream alongside Dolph Dam Road and the old abutments of a bridge that ain't there anymore. It was really pretty. I liked it.
Next year.
I do dirt roads.
It's very, it's not dirt road. It's like a bridge, a ruined bridge in the middle of nowhere.
All right, let's move on. CIP.
We can put it on the website for you.
There you go. On that rotating banner, so I can go look at it again and again when I feel like it.
You can post it on Facebook, Tony. A lot of people will see it there. All right, we had CIP review. We didn't do it last time.
What is CIP?
Capital improvement plan.
Thank you.
Is there anything, Chris, you want to walk us through, or do you want people to just pose questions if they have them?
Yeah, you have the summary sheet by department, and then you have a total breakdown with an estimated tax impact. One of the objectives here is to make sure we don't have any big spikes in the tax impact. We're relatively flat. The big drivers here are highway vehicles on the town side, and you know, most of the actual spending comes in the form of deposits into the reserve accounts. CIP committee really didn't, well, we didn't get much other than this from the school, and there wasn't anybody from the school at the meeting we did have, so we didn't really touch on that stuff. We're not gonna be, unless Charlene, you've done any additional homework, we're not gonna be much help on that, but I guess overall, not a lot of surprises. You know, the things that are new are relatively small. The biggest challenge is gonna be our grader and loader, not knowing how long they're going to last, and they're both gonna come to the end of their life within a year or two of each other. Ben and I and Jack sat down and tried to map out the expected lifespan of each of the vehicles we have, and the plan for, dealing with it. We we couldn't solve that one problem of grader and loader both aging it out at about the same time, but did suggest that we start saving more. And that's where you see the appropriation for the reserve fund going up by $25,000 this year. I don't know, Charlene, you have anything else from that effort that
No,
worth reporting out?
no.
You guys have any questions? I have no questions. Are we good? Check it off the list, move on? Okay, Chris, do you want to do, so warrant articles is gonna take us a while. So do you wanna do Route 4 first?
Yeah, sure. Last meeting, you had the KW commercial folks in to discuss a potential RFP, and you didn't continue that discussion after they were gone, and what you thought of that, and what direction you want to go. We plugged in a warrant article to authorize a lease on the property. You'll see that you've seen that text in the warrant language. That was just to open the door for that if the board decides they want to move in that direction after town meeting. We're not in a position to finalize anything before town meeting.
Yeah.
At least anything.
Well, that will allow us to continue to weigh the two options so far that we've looked at, right?
Yep. Yeah, so if you want to continue talking with the folks you saw last time, I can orchestrate that. I don't know if you had questions coming out of that. We didn't talk about it after they were done, so I didn't want to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, I had concerns about, what they're really interested in. I mean, they were really actually interested in, commercial development around it versus, just, helping us through the solar navigation. My concern also was the amount of money. It was 5%, I think, right? Was 6% was their take. So that concerned me a little bit. And then my other concern was that, they could go through this search and then come back and tell us that, the company that we're already talking to is the best option anyway, and we're out 6%. So those were kind of the top of mind things for me coming away from that conversation.
I was concerned with the fact that they didn't know that we weren't on municipal water or sewer.
Yeah, those types of things. Yeah.
I mean, and that property's been sitting there for a long time on the market, and for them to kind of, all of a sudden,
Hasn't it been listed with them
no.
Different.
when it was, okay. My sense of what they were offering was that it was much smaller scale, much shorter term. Like their vision for it was not as big as other ideas that we've seen.
Certainly on the solar side, that's.
Yeah, the solar
that's
side,
impression I
yeah.
have.
And then take the 6% slice out of that, and I don't see that being a better benefit to the town.
Guys?
No, I agree. I mean, I'd accept, if we're gonna hire somebody just to do the RFP and they get paid a fee then and then they're gone. I mean, not something that's gonna be ongoing for them.
What were your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, well, I'm glad we flushed out the, I'm not convinced that they had their head in the same place we did on the scale of the solar. I think it seemed like, and in my conversation with them leading up to their meeting with you, they were interested in complementary uses, which is, generic commercial, industrial
Yep.
uses. If that's the direction you want to go, that generic, industrial park or whatever, whatever you call that, I think you probably ought to put a lot more thought into it, than just running off in that direction. I don't see, I'm not the expert, but I don't see a lot of potential there, relative to the other option that you have. I mean, if there was a great interest in the commercial industrial use of that site,
Would have materialized
it
by
would have
now.
materialized in the last 10 years when the thing was on the market, or however many years it's been. So, I didn't find it that compelling, but,
Okay, so what I'm hearing from pretty much across the board is that there isn't really any interest in trying to move forward with them. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think the first option was a better of the options to further explore. The first group.
The first group.
the Grand Apollo.
Grand-
Oh, I see.
Apollo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
What do you want me to do going forward?
in terms of solar versus commercial
I-
development.
The whole thing. I mean, we've got to,
Well, we need to get the town approval, right?
if you want to lease it, yes. If you want to sell it, you have the authority to do it now. And you want to hold off until we know what those choices are? Sir.
I think so. I mean, it's 3 weeks away, right? 4 weeks away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and there's no risk in waiting.
No, no, I guess the risk is kind of an open-ended ask to town meeting, where you're asking for a lot more authority than you have in some cases, and you don't have anything to show the voters. So I don't know how big a risk that is, where you can sell it. Perhaps the voter will look at it and say, well, leasing might be better if that turns out. I don't know.
Well, what do you mean by selling? Because Granite Apollo wasn't a sell.
No, they had proposed a lease.
Lease,
And I think that's one of the things that makes that concept most attractive, is that you get to decide again in 25 or 30 years what you want to do with it.
And that's safer, I think, for the town, in the sense that, as a town, we don't have any experience with business parks, right? And if you look at the experience that the Pease Development Authority had, now, they had a tract of land that was already developed, had water, had sewer, and it took them, 12, 15 years to get it right? We don't have that kind of time, money, or expertise to develop that into some kind of a business park, technology park, whatever. So something a little more contained, simple, easier to grasp, I think would be
Yeah, I mean, I think
better
if,
for us.
I like the idea of leasing it, this way. However, if that fell through, right, we may have a different conversation, and there may be an
Right.
opportunity that looks better to sell it. So that's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but the warrant article, at least, it gives us, we say, we've got this potential, we've had these conversations, and it's limited authority in my mind. It's like, it's
Contingency.
Just for that purpose,
it's
yeah.
for that purpose and that purpose alone. So, I mean, I don't see that there's a risk in people feeling like we're trying to assume too much power, Anyone else have thoughts on that?
I just think if we want to lease it, it's gotta be, in the terms that makes the most sense for us, the town. If we put it out there, we could, for the next 100 nights, we could be in here and there'd be another solar developer wanting our ear and to give us a proposal on leasing that property. There's thousands of companies out there doing exactly what Granite Apollo says they could do. We may find somebody better, we may find somebody worse, but we could probably find the right match for us. Or, I look at it, if we sold it, again, it'd be tough, because we might sell it to somebody that says, we won't do any of this, this, and this, and then they turn around 2 or 3 years later and say, we're selling.
Yeah.
So then we're in the same boat again, so.
So, Tyler, are you suggesting that we we agreed we don't want to work with that other group, but are you suggesting, so all of Chris's conversations have been with Granite Apollo.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that we should try to, on our own, go out and talk to other groups?
Yeah, I think maybe just to see, I mean, not, maybe get a couple, 2 or 3 more, and we make a decision from there,
Okay.
but.
Have you been approached by others?
No, there's been some other tire kickers for other uses, but not any other solar
Okay.
developers.
Okay. And where are we currently with Granite Apollo?
It's kind of on hold. Said that, told them you were gonna consider an RFP concept and, you know, don't call us, we'll call you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
But I'll stay in contact with them.
okay. So, I mean, I think if we're gonna do an RFP type of process, then I think this board has to take a very active role in that. And, you know, I think somebody from the board needs to kind of like take the lead on it, so that we can kind of start moving that forward, figure out what the process is gonna be and start moving it forward. So we don't have to decide that tonight, but I think we should have it as a topic of discussion. Probably gonna end up being after town meeting,
Yep.
because calendars are full. Okay.
And so the language in the warrant article, I was just looking at it, so that's specifically to the solar.
Yeah, and while you're looking at that, I got one suggestion from our attorney that you might want to put a time limit on that lease authority, a lease of not longer than X years.
Okay.
To lease not longer than X years, or
Yeah.
to give us the authority not longer?
To limit your authority to a certain number of years, probably.
That makes sense.
30.
Right, so it
Yeah,
would
that's
say
fine.
like the authority to execute this lease will expire on,
No, that you can only encumber it with a lease for 30 years. A
Oh,
30-year lease.
okay.
Sorry, you don't have 30 years to lease it, you can encumber it with a 30-year lease. So it's not a 99-year lease or,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
just to,
Is there any risk in making up that number at this point?
if it's far enough out, it's probably pretty small.
Okay.
But, I mean, the proposal that you've seen is 30.
Yeah.
You know, another developer conceivably want a little longer.
Okay, so I think if I remember correctly, in the Granite Apollo, it was 25 years with a 5-year reoccurring. So in year 25, we'd have 5 years more that the town has given us permission for, so we would have to continuously go before the town to do those renewals?
Well, no, you could do it all at once. You could do it once after year 25. If the company said they wanted to do it, you'd have 4 or 5 town meetings to get authorization for a
Right.
further,
Okay.
for an extension, essentially.
And you can do it up to, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd want to make sure that there's enough time, both either when we enter into a contract or when we look at what that number might be, to make sure that we've got, like, you know, some buffer in there.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, where we're at now, I think, you know, if you picked a 30 or a 35-year max for the sake of the warrant, anything we do will give you the lag that you're looking for there.
Yep, okay.
And we'll build a lease and contract around the authorization, rather than doing it the other way around.
And on that letter of intent, there was that window in which they would do the assessment, but that's still, and then the 25 years would kick in, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah, so 25 would not be enough, because
Right.
you know, you want, it was two years of,
So it'd have to be at least 30 years. Right. I guess we've taken a moment, or should I continue with? with the meeting. We lost the chair. Chair.
Do you want to settle this one now with a number and scribble a sentence into that article? What article number is that?
It's number 17.
Okay. That, it's not required that you put a time cap on this, it's just something that the attorney suggested you might put people at ease at town meeting. That's the only.
I'm okay with that. Where you guys have gone since I left.
We gave you a bunch of action items.
Fantastic. I don't have time, I won't get to them.
So do we want to put in a time frame there? And Donna, just, so, you know, the Granite Apollo there was a couple of years of assessing the site, and then there was the 25 years, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think 30 is a fine number. Since we know they're gonna wanna be in that range anyway.
25, that's 2 years, 27, and then we have to bring it back to the town for the 5-year renewal timeframe, so we should be all right with 30.
Okay with that. What number is that?
17, authorized, so it would be authorized the Board of Selectmen to, I guess, lease land or space. Would you add it in after that? Up to 30 years.
It's probably just easier with a second sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I
okay.
did.
Works for me.
Such lease shall not exceed 30 years.
Okay, we good on that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, warrant articles. So the goal here, Chris, is to go through them and recommend or not recommend, correct?
Yes, this has been through DRA, pre-approval, it's been by council. The only holes left are your recommendations, which will appear on the warrant.
Okay. And is this, is there any particular way that we're supposed to do this? Do we have to formally do it in terms of motion and?
No, I don't think, as long as you're all clear about what you're voting on each one of them, I think that would be sufficient. You don't need to
Okay,
make a motion.
okay. So we'll skip Articles 1 through 3, because there's no role for us to recommend or not recommend those. We'll start with Article 5, I'm sorry, with Article 4, which is, relates to the operating budget, voting to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,877,280 for the 2019 operating budget. This article does not include appropriations voted on in other special or individual warrant articles addressed in this warrant. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $3.437 per 1,000 of property valuation. Just one question, that 3 million, I know there was, at the budget committee meeting the other night, there were some differing numbers and stuff that had to be corrected, but I just want to make sure all of the numbers.
This number is correct. It
Okay.
was just the final tax impact.
Okay.
$4 and change
Yep.
was too much because it included warrant articles that had an offsetting revenue from capital reserve
Okay.
fund or something like that.
So that's all, that was all.
What was the actual?
It's okay.
It's all right, Steve.
Don't worry about that one. It's my error.
Oh, okay.
We don't need to point those out.
I wasn't pointing it out for that reason.
He would.
Okay, discussion on this? All right, all in favor of recommending?
Yeah, I recommend.
Do we
Anyone?
have a motion in a second?
You want it? Okay.
Yes, please.
You don't need,
I don't? Why not?
you can count to 4 or 5 or whatever it is.
It-
That's not the process, though.
All right, we'll take a motion and a
Make
second.
a motion to recommend,
Article 4.
Article 4 to the,
I just read it. You
to
don't
the
have
ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $195,438 for the purpose of purchasing new self-contained breathing apparatus equipment and to authorize the withdrawal of $195,438 from the fire vehicles SCBA Capital Reserve Fund previously established and created for this purpose. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is $0 per 1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 5 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $35,000 for the purpose of purchasing new extrication equipment for the fire department. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.057 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 6 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,651 for the purpose of purchasing the necessary fuel, supplies, equipment, and maintenance to run the ambulance and billing services for 2019, and to authorize the withdrawal of $21,651 from the ambulance and equipment replacement special reserve fund created for this purpose. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 7 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $44,200 for the purpose of purchasing the necessary supplies, hardware, and software for the installation of mobile data units in police department cruisers. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.071 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 8 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 9, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the highway truck capital reserve fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.162 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 9 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor?
Make-
Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $225,000 for the purchase of a 10-wheel truck with dump body, sander, plow, wing, and other needed equipment, and to authorize the withdrawal of $225,000 from the Highway Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund created for this purpose. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 10 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $155,000 for the purchase of an excavator and trailer for the highway department. This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 11 to the ballot.
Second.
Okay, I'm not in favor of this still, and I know we had some discussion about it, but it's still unclear to me what the exact volume of work and projects would be for it. I also think that, when we're getting close to having potentially someone for the highway department to come in, that we should allow them to make their own decisions. And so, therefore, I'm not in favor of recommending this. You want to discuss it instead of asking me to sit here and read it alone?
Well,
Just
in
for
previous-
purposes of people who are watching.
Donna, in previous discussions that we've had here, I've come up with numerous projects in which this piece of equipment can be utilized. Case in point, I was told today that Jasper Lane is now having water, ice coming over the road where the excavator could be easily used to break that up. There's other projects for this, you know, cleaning out pipes and you know, debris and dirt, creating maintained drainage ditches throughout the town. But currently, it's very limited. If you don't have proper drainage, culverts gets damaged, roads get washed out, you know, things of that nature. When culverts freeze in the winter, water runs in the road, possibly causing accidents and more harm than we have the capability to cut the ice away and make a channel for the water. Spring, summer, beavers get active and pack mud and debris and culverts damming water up, and we have ways to handle the water flow again. You know, the list goes on, and having an excavator means we can space this work out throughout the summer as opposed to being limited on a time frame when we rent a excavator. You'll get more usage out of the excavator than you would the grader.
I'm not convinced, because I think the items that you listed are, you know, potential projects. They're certainly not something that all happen all of the time. And I do firmly believe that with a new person coming in and taking over the department should make the decisions on what equipment they want and need, and then ensure that our employees get proper training on them before they're used. We have nobody.
Well, we put Jack in a foreign position, and he recommended the excavator. Are we not going to take his thoughts and considerations into account?
I think it should be the department head,
We don't have one at the current time.
but we're getting close to having one.
I think, so I too am not voting for this, but I think we did discuss it, and it is on a warrant article. I think we take the vote, and we have to leave it up to the legislative body. I think the vote will just show 3-2, and if there's questions asked, we can just explain that there was a split on the board. I do believe we should get an excavator. I do think that it will be put to use, but again, just as I stated before, when you look at the balance of things in the capital improvement, I think I would like to see this put for next year and the truck purchase this year, so reverse it. But the decision was 3-2, and I think that's what it will just go to the.
Chris, what's the status of the old truck?
It's on its way to the shop. Insurance company gave us about 11,000 for it.
So we didn't total it?
No.
All right, so we have the truck. We'll have a truck. So is there a need for another truck?
How much is it gonna cost?
That's the part we don't know yet.
What's the useful life of it?
It's slated to be replaced
Couple
next year.
years. Yeah, I mean, if
It's
we're
next year,
lucky.
it's on, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And it was
if-
slated for the fall, it's gonna be a year earlier, it was gonna be 2 years earlier if we couldn't get repaired. So that's what I think I remember.
Well, there's a possibility that we try to, we don't think of it as a replacement, but an add-on and keep using it, as long as it lives, without being too expensive. So certainly by next year, we're gonna want another 1.5 ton. As we talked about last time, is this year or next year? So once we know what the repair cost is, we'll have to make a decision on it. I think we're gonna decide to do it. I think it's probably what we'll decide to do, but.
If it's the recommendation that this new vehicle that, it seems to be a big push for, is for the new highway director to have a vehicle, that's a quick fix. You can repurpose the police cruiser for that purpose. It doesn't cost the town any more money. We already paid for the cruiser.
How much do we depend on trade-in value on those?
I think the trade-in on this year's cruiser is like 4,500. Something like that.
Should be riding around in a pickup.
I think, so where I'm coming from, Ben, is kind of looking at the CIP and trying to keep a little bit more of an even balance of of the amount of warrant articles that are coming forward. So we've got the 150 for the scuba equipment, or SCBA. We've got the police department equipment. When you look at the CIP, as far as what's coming up for next year, there's a shift in some increases with the road construction, but if we switched, so I'm just kind of looking at trying to keep not that we don't need it, not that it won't be put to use, but.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Charlene, but I think at some point, we need to get the highway department the necessary equipment for them to continue to do their job. And they've gone long enough without certain pieces of equipment.
Are we ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of recommending Article 11
To the ballot.
to the ballot?
3 in favor?
All opposed?
2 opposed?
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for engineering, design, and highway construction and reconstruction on Ledge Farm Road or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises. This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Section 6, and will not lapse until the work is complete or not later than 1 year after the end of fiscal year 2019, whichever occurs earlier. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.323 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 12 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor?
5 in favor?
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the fire vehicle SCBA capital reserve fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.162 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Oh, sorry. Make
Tony.
a motion to recommend Article 13 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,000 to the town building maintenance and repair expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.016 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 14 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the tricentennial expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.008 per $1,000 of property valuation.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
He beat you on that one, Tony.
You woke up.
Do you want to second that one, Tony?
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Touche.
he can have the Article 15 if he wants it.
Yeah, there you go. He takes the tough ones.
Well, in the military, an Article 15 is a disciplinary write-up.
That's why you jumped at it.
Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the invasive species prevention and eradication removal expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $0.016 per $1,000 of property valuation.
Make a motion to recommend Article 16 to the ballot.
Second.
All in favor? We don't have to do 17, we don't have to do 18. Article 19, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of developing recreational facilities, including but not limited to ball fields and trails at the Marston Farm. Said funds to be raised through taxation. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, 6, and will not lapse until the project is completed or by December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. Majority vote required by citizen petition. The estimate is $0.162 per $1,000 of property valuation.
I make a recommendation that the select board not recommend this appropriation.
Well, you can't do a negative motion, can you?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, I have some information that I got from Matt, which Matt was not able to attend. I think it will answer some of the questions. Okay, so what's clarified here is just kind of like a snapshot summary. $100,000, I'm sorry, initial allocations from 2016 town meeting, $100,000 from taxes, $100,000 from the rec department revolving fund. The $200,000, that $200,000 sunsets on December 2020. The accomplishments to date: secure donations for survey and topography data, soil, wetland, and environmental analysis, developed working construction drawings, applied for and awarded New Hampshire DES alteration of terrain permit, coordinated with the Conservation Committee, Trails Committee, and Lamprey River Watershed Committee, met with multiple contractors, applied for grants, however, were not able to get any.
What grants did they apply for?
Major League Baseball was one.
There was a couple smaller foundation ones, like, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
MLB was the big one.
yeah, that was the one.
And how much was that?
$250,000, something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember the
exactly, but
exact, it was in that
big.
ballpark.
Yeah.
Did they give any reason why it wasn't successful?
They're not interested in multi-use fields.
That's right, okay.
Expenditures to date, $7,200 for topography data and DES permit application. Donations and volunteer services, approximately $25,000 in value. The Marston budget Phase 1, which is the phase that's on the table, is estimated at $297,000. That makes the fields usable and safe. The best quote that they, or estimate that they received, came from Bantis Construction at $260,000. They also got estimates from Severino and Andrews. The Bantis quote includes clearing and grubbing, erosion control, strip 12-inch topsoil, excavation to fills, loam and machine grade, 6-inch slopes, 8-inch from multi-use field, drainage including 2 12-inch head walls and 1 48 outlet structure, gravel parking, import place and grade, crushed gravel and bank run gravel, wood guardrail, land survey, 6-inch crushed gravel for ADA trail, including fine grading. Additionally, the $297,000 would cover final grading, infield mix, rake and seeding, and backstops.
Oh, that says additional requirements.
It's in, well, if you look at Bantis's quote, it's $260, I'm sorry, $260,000
To do all of the stuff
under that.
prior to the additional
To do
requirements.
everything- Yeah, exactly. And then the balance there is what's bringing it up more.
I was under the impression that the parking lot would be paved up for that price.
No. That was never stated.
And why are they stripping 12 inches of topsoil?
I can't answer that question.
It's an old farm, lots of soil.
Further on the document is that, you know, they're anticipating they're still gonna need dugouts. They can start playing with, you know, backstops are critical. They can start playing without dugouts, benches and bleachers. But they're looking, you know, they'll be working to get volunteers to help out with that.
So I'm kind of split on this. I've always been, in support of this project. I'm kind of concerned about, and granted, part of this is our fault for not following through, but we've never gotten the documentation we've asked for, in terms of, a documented budget.
You got it right here.
This is not a budget form. This is just a
Well, it's
bulleted.
not a budget form, it's the,
It's a bulleted list of, hey, this is what we've been doing the past couple of years, but it's not a formal budget document. That said, I'm kind of concerned if we recommend against this, what's the public perception? Is that we don't support the project anymore? Is that gonna make the project die before it gets off the ground? I don't want that either. So, ergo, I'm kind of split on this. I don't want it to end here because they run out of money, but I've really got a hard time asking the taxpayers to pony up more when we've got no record of hard documentation to justify, what's been spent to date and a detailed breakdown of what these additional funds are going to.
well, I mean, you've got it right here.
But we did have,
This isn't the level of detail that,
we had, meetings with Barry and Matt and Chris, and, where Barry had come to the point, just like Matt said the last meeting, that there's no more that he could do for, they've been trying their best to keep the cost down, but
Bantus actually worked with them very closely to bring that number down. They had multiple conversations about it. I don't understand how all of the construction paperwork works, but what it sounds to me like what you're asking for is the same information on different types of documents.
in more detail,
But what
something demonstrating cash flow, something showing, like a project plan where you would track, to this point, these have been accomplished, and, and these are the milestones ahead. Something a little more detailed than just,
Well, you've got a list of, here's what's been accomplished to date.
there's no timeline and no budget. Like I said, this is just a bulleted list of generalizations.
What are you looking for in terms of a timeline?
Like I said, like a project plan
For what?
for the project itself,
For the overall project?
the
itself?
overall project, yeah.
Okay, so you know why we got here, right? It's because all of the construction drawings have been done on a volunteer basis.
Oh, I get
We didn't
that.
pay for it, so therefore we were at the availability of the volunteers. So we could have laid out a project plan, but we have no control over when a volunteer says they can or can't do something.
Right,
you
right.
know? And we're not gonna have a detailed project plan from a construction company that hasn't won the job yet. Right, so I'm just not sure.
No, I get that, But it, it got me thinking, why should this project be at the risk of not being completed due to volunteer inavailability?
Because the people in the town of Nottingham try to do everything they can to control costs and save
Oh, no,
money.
I get that, but if we really want this to go through successfully, should we consider hiring a project planner or a general contractor to oversee it? And that would have to answer to the board with formal documentation and project updates, and that way we can keep tabs on it, and that it doesn't fall off our radar,
the original plan that they did have, it's shrunk drastically from when they came to town meeting and had the entire
Yeah.
whatever on the board, so.
So I don't agree with this article, especially we got fields in town right now that could use the money for upgrades and fixing, so on. So we're gonna build another field and let the other two lay waste. I think that's money that could be spent for fixing and upgrading those fields. that we already have.
I think, as Matt explained, well, and personally, I think it would be throwing good money after bad if we try to do the existing fields. As we know, this one is at risk of getting flooded, and the one at the school is, has ledge, would have to be blasted, and is still gonna be used as a parking lot if money is put into it. And so to me, that's throwing good money after bad, and it also doesn't ease the capacity issues.
So you're saying we would abandon the current fields and just,
No, they're saying that they still have to use the current fields.
okay, but they're not up to code or specs or anything like that, so we're gonna sink money into another field.
I guess that's, I think, to that subject, that's some of my concern with this too, is that we don't have a full understanding of what this all means. And the last thing I want to do is see $300,000 get put into that property because we want to be, penny wise and pound foolish, and in 5 years, they come back and say, oh, you know what, the fields weren't done right, and, we need to put more money into it, and we need to upgrade these fields, and it just becomes this cycle. So, again, not seeing a clear breakdown, and like Tony said, a timeline of when things are gonna done. I think for us to ask for more money, and
We're not asking
of
for
the
more money.
people, for them to ask for more money from the people when they've already received 200,000 and we haven't gotten anywhere, I think is just without more clear information for the people, showing the breakdown, showing the timeline.
What more breakdown do you want?
I
I mean,
want
that's just a serious question. I don't know what more breakdown you need.
clearing and grubbing. How much is that? What percentage of the 260,000 is that?
How
Erosion control, how much is that? What percentage of the
how will you
260?
use, how will you use those numbers? Are you gonna debate grubbing costs?
No, I want to see it.
Like, how do they come up to this total that they're proposing?
Every construction job has a breakdown in costs. How
Probably
much,
has it, right? He probably has a documented quote.
I don't know what level of detail the last quote has.
Okay.
The folks providing the quotes, I know were given the construction drawings, the plans, and said, what does it take to get from where we are to this point? And I don't know how detailed the submission back was.
Okay.
I think, the whole purpose of Marston becoming a, ball fields, hiking, it was to get away from playing in the pasture out here and playing in the rock pile at the school. They're both, they're a disgrace. If we want to put money into it, I guess would be fine, but it's gonna cost us a lot of money to do that, to fix these up.
yeah, but at some point, we're gonna have to fix them. Whether
Well, yeah, I think-
whether we have another field or not.
But I think that's their plan in the big picture though, is there won't be any more activity here or at the school, is when the whole Marston property thing came out. But-
Once the additional fields are put
Yeah,
in.
once they get the whole,
That's
that's what I mean, that's why they have,
That's phase 2 and phase
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, it's still a ways down the road.
yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, we're gonna ask the town to make this decision, right? So, much like with the excavator, I see both sides of that coin. I see the value in the use of that thing, and I'm very sensitive to the pressure in the CIP, especially the grader and the other thing coming of age the same year. I see both of that, and I don't mind asking the town to decide that either, so. I guess I could say I won't have any problem asking the town to decide this one too, but personally, I have reservations about it. That weigh on me just as much as not wanting that project to end.
Well, and who's going to manage this? Who's going to be like Tony said, who's going to be the project manager of this if the money does come through?
Well, Matt will still be continued, was happy to.
But you just said that, it's a volunteer and you can't expect a lot from a volunteer.
I think Matt has done a tremendous job.
I'm not saying that he hasn't, but I'm just saying.
I think that Matt would have to have, obviously, somebody from the town is gonna have to be involved. So, ideally, that would be a public works person if we have him on board.
Or her.
I said or her.
Okay. Sure.
Minimally, I think, whether this money goes through or not, we should probably engage with Matt and Courtney together more as a board to just open those communication channels and make sure that this thing
If
is,
this money doesn't, if the town doesn't if the voters don't allocate this money, the project is dead. The project is dead.
Why do you say that?
Because there isn't enough money to do it. There won't be enough money to do it.
Well, maybe, we'll see what the people say, right?
Oh, and I just
They
said-
might say, well, we want more data to support the decision that you're asking us to make.
I don't know that there's, okay, so how do you come back a year later with that data to town meeting?
I mean, do we have Matt or somebody do a presentation if this goes through to?
I would expect he would, since it's a petition and
Yeah,
he's putting
yeah,
it
no, I
forward,
mean,
yeah.
but that's something I guess he could provide.
So I think just as the excavator one, a motion's been put on the table. It's ultimately the legislative body's decision.
Okay, the motion on the table is to not
Not.
recommend. All in-
Which means that if you vote in favor, it's a vote to not recommend it.
Correct. All in favor of not recommending, what article number is it?
19, sorry.
Article 19. All in favor of not recommending. All not in favor of not recommending. Article 20. See if the town of,
You want a motion in the affirmative to recommend?
It might be better just for ease.
okay,
You should be clear, because, you should be clear about an affirmative recommendation.
So I'll just reverse it.
Yeah, 3-2.
The select board recommends this
You should,
appropriation.
if you're gonna go through and make motions about each of these.
Yeah, we
You
shouldn't.
should make an affirmative motion and vote for it.
Make a motion to put forward Article 19
To the ballot.
to the ballot.
Second.
all in favor? All opposed? Okay, Article 20. See if the town of Nottingham will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72:.
You don't have to recommend it.
Oh, sorry, geez, I was just reading.
That's it for appropriation.
That's it?
But it doesn't it have a dollar amount attached to it?
It's not an appropriation, doesn't have a, so it's
Oh,
not.
yeah, it's the, oh, no, sorry, I was just reading.
But there is a tax impact.
There will be, depending on how many apply, so
Right.
you can't, there's no way to articulate it unless you guesstimate based on current usage of the credit.
There'll be a tax impact of 20, 21, 22, 23,
No, I thought
24.
Yeah, the trigger is not a tax impact, it's an appropriation. That's what puts you a recommendation on the on the warrant.
Did 26 come through?
26,
Did you get the language?
yes. I think we got it originally.
I do have.
Looking for a different
text
format.
document. There was a question as whether or not we actually had to include it as part of the warrant.
Right.
I was hoping to get it electronically. I never received a response. They actually want to come before the board, but I haven't even heard whether or not they're going to show up.
Okay.
So,
All right, anything else in public?
Yeah, actually, I had, like we've talked about things falling off our radar and, losing track of them. So I thought of let me just pass these down, just a minor modification to our weekly agenda. And that's one for Dawn. And basically.
Putting in times for snacks and naps?
Yeah, if only. So I'm proposing that we add an item after we approve minutes, and then add an item right before we go into non-public or adjourn. The first one being to review action items from the previous meeting, and then one to designate action items for the next meeting, as well as to carry some forward if there's no action on them. That'll keep things from falling off our radar, because we have jobs and families in between meetings, and it happens, right? We lose track of stuff. So this may be a way to keep longer-term issues on our radar so that we don't drop the ball.
I think it's good.
I like it.
I'm good with it.
Just a thought.
What did you say at the end of the meeting, you call it what?
Say again?
At the end of the meeting, you call it what?
That we would, I wrote it down as review action items for next meeting, but we would either designate new action items or decide that previous action items would be carried forward yet again.
Okay,
Good idea.
good idea. Do we, if there's gonna be discussion about this, does it have to be non-public?
Yes.
This be non-public?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can wrap it in.
Okay, all right, barring no other public discussion, we need to go into non-public. Charlene's going to give us a motion on that.
I'll make a motion that we enter into non-public per RSA 91-A:32 A, B, D, E, and L.
One more time, A?
A, B, D, E, and L.
Everything but C.
We need a second,
Second?
and we need a roll call.
And Bartlett?
Charlene Nixon.
Donna Danus.
Tony Dumas.
We, having finished all public business, when we come out of non-public, we will be adjourning the meeting.